Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Rita, also known as the Gold Digger. And on my channel I discuss my life as a wife, mom, entrepreneur, and business owner, all while trying to crush these goals and share with you all the lessons I've learned as well as the mistakes that I have made. And today's video is talking about why I have over 15 bank accounts and why I feel that is beneficial for me. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so what prompted me to have over 15 bank accounts? So what happened was probably several years ago, maybe 2 to 3 years ago, I read this book called Profit First, and it's by Mike, and I forget his last name because it's really hard to pronounce. But anyway, the book is called Profit First, and it talks about having multiple bank accounts for your business. And I decided to incorporate it into my personal life. Side note, I probably will be reading that book again and probably will give you a review and kind of like an update about it, because I am trying to do a monthly book review in my videos as well. So be on the lookout for that in one of the future videos. But anyway, so his book talks about the importance of having several or multiple accounts for your business and the reasons why. So I decided to incorporate it into my personal life because of the fact that at the time when I read this book, I was pretty much getting like inconsistent income. So I had worked as an independent contractor. The pay that I would get per week just kind of depended on how many people I was seeing during the week, as well as I got paid through insurance payments and things like that. So some weeks I would make a lot more than the previous week. Some weeks it was pretty regular, that kind of thing, but my income was always inconsistent. There was always like a base amount that I would expect to make, but sometimes it would be a lot more depending on the volume that I saw or when the insurance companies decided to issue me checks. And what would end up happening is that I would see this money in my bank account and I would think I would have a lot of money, which I did. And so I might go out and do like a little shopping spree or just be going out to eat more than usual because I would just see all of this money in my account. Now, keep in mind, I typically do not spend a lot on myself. So when I say I went on a shopping spree and that kind of thing, usually I probably hadn't bought something for myself or went clothes shopping or something like that for several months. And that at the time was my nature. It's like I probably wouldn't buy stuff for several months, but when I did buy stuff, I would spend a few $100s because I justified it by saying, well, I haven't bought anything in 2 to 3 months, and so it's okay if I spend a few $100s going shopping or going out to eat or whatever, or just traveling or just doing different things, and then my money would be gone, and next thing you know, there would be some kind of unexpected or expected bills, because some of the bills were not unexpected. I just forgot about them, that they were due. There would be some kind of unexpected bill or a trip that I needed to go on or I was supposed to go on, or a car repair, something of that nature. And then I'm looking at my account and maybe I would have the money in there, but I was like, man, I wish I hadn't taken that shopping spree. I wish I didn't do X, Y, and Z, because now I would have had more than enough money for this thing. So that is kind of like what prompted me to do the separate bank account, so all of my money wasn't just hanging out in this one account, especially when I knew that certain expenses were going to come around or inevitably would come around, and that I would need money for that, whether it was regarding my kids wanting to take a trip or a vacation or something like that. So I decided to create these accounts. So initially, when I first set it up, I set these accounts up in 2018 for the various things that were going on in my life at the time. And I had 7 accounts, and the accounts consisted of, I had a personal savings account because the book always said, well, I won't say the book. I can't remember where I heard this from, but it could have came from the book. You should always pay yourself first. And I know other financial experts or gurus usually will tout that or say that as well, that you should always pay yourself first. And I wasn't doing that on a regular basis or consistently. So I created a personal savings account. The second account I had was for my kids' clothing or back to school shopping or their Christmas shopping, that kind of thing. But it was mainly for my kids, for any upcoming expenses that they might have, because back to school is definitely coming up. Their birthdays and stuff like that would come up, or say the kids needed, like, some new shoes, a coat, whatever. And, or their clothes had, they outgrew their clothes and now you're having to buy them like a whole new wardrobe. So I had an account for my kids. I had an account for travel that was for like any trips that I wanted to take, like maybe little weekend trips or mini vacations, or say I wanted to go home or visit family, that kind of thing. Because my closest family stays about an hour and a half away from me, and usually on these trips not only are you paying for gas, but maybe you're going out to eat. All these little quote unquote unexpected expenses that come about from you taking these little trips. So I had a travel account. I had a personal spending account for those times when I wanted to just get some stuff, clothes, shoes, whatever, for myself. I had a continuing education account, because in my profession I have to keep up with my continuing education, and some of these classes or courses can be kind of expensive. And then when I see a course that I want to take, I don't want to have to worry about, well, do I really want to spend $1,000 on this course? I really just want to be like, hey, this is a course that interests me and I want to be able to take it, or I need to get my CEs and not have to worry about coming up with $1,000 from my regular account. So I created a CE, or a continuing education course. I created a car repair or car maintenance account, because I do drive an older vehicle. But just in general, maybe like oil changes, you need to get tires put on the car, that kind of stuff. Those kind of expenses would pop up, and now you're like, oh, it's $300-$400 for tires or something like that, and you just blew that going clothes shopping or whatever. So I created an account for that, so those things would not catch me by surprise. Also, I created an account for taxes. With me being self-employed, there is a certain amount of money that I should be setting aside for taxes, and we typically pay our taxes quarterly. And even with that, like when they came due or whatever, it would come out of my main account. So I'm like, let me just go ahead and set this money aside for taxes. So at first, those were my 7 main accounts: my personal savings, kids clothing, travel, personal spending, continuing education, car repair / car maintenance, and taxes. Since then, it has evolved to about 15 accounts, actually a little bit more if I take into account my business accounts that I have. But now I have an account for my debt payoff. I created an account for COVID-19. I created an emergency fund. I created a new car fund, car insurance fund, car taxes, and then I have my main checking and my main savings account. And really, my main checking is just how all that money kind of flows through, and the main savings account is really not a savings account, but it's just like the backup account for the checking that kind of acts like an overdraft account. That was just part of my initial account when I set up the checking account, if I'm not mistaken, because I've had that account for like over 20 years and I'm probably not gonna close it down. Yeah, so that's how I come up with the 15 accounts. Also, when I originally created these accounts, because my income was so inconsistent, I would allocate a percentage of my money to each account to account for that. Now, since I am paying myself through my business and I pay myself pretty much a regular amount each month, or each pay period, or I should say, I have allocated a set dollar amount for these accounts. So you can do it either way you want to. I just found when my money was inconsistent, it worked out better for me when I did it percentage. So also, any extra money or extra money that came in was still being accounted for, and I wasn't wasting my money because I had all this extra money going on. I like having all of these accounts because when I do need to purchase something, all I have to do is like look in the accounts and be like, okay, I have $200 to spend on X, Y, and Z, or I have, I don't know, $500 to go to my CE, or if we decide to take a trip or want to travel with the family or something like that, I'd be like, hey, I have $500 already allocated that we can go on like a little mini trip or a little mini vacation, and it's not coming out of my regular account that is using to pay like the regular bills, like my mortgage, water, electricity, all that kind of stuff. I just look at that account and see that it's there. Same thing with the kids, because like they always seem to have some kind of unexpected expense to come up, and it's like, okay, what's in the account? Just pull it from the account and go from there. The other thing I like about it, most of these accounts that I have set up, they are with online banks, which at the time had a higher percentage rates than brick and mortar banks, which they still do. The percentage is just not as high as it was before because of COVID-19, but you get a higher percentage for the money that you are putting in there, with it being an online account. Another advantage of that is that it takes a while for the money to get into your actual account. So like, I can have debit cards or ATM cards with these accounts, but I don't, so that I don't have easy access to this money. The only way I can have access to it is by transferring it from that account into my main checking account, which is where I do have an ATM card, but it usually takes a few days. So it forces me to kind of plan for expenses and prevents me from spending frivolously without thinking or, putting any thought behind it. So I know, okay, if I need to go clothes shopping for myself or for my kids, I can go ahead and figure out budget for it and say, hey, I have, I don't know, $300 in the account. I'm only going to spend $200 for clothes shopping, and then I would transfer the money into my main checking account, so I would have that $200 for when I went to spend it. And I would be like, hey, we're gonna go shopping, this weekend. And it wasn't like I could go shopping out of the blue. So it forced me to plan for these shopping trips and not use the money recklessly. So that is what I liked about it. And sometimes there were occasions where maybe I wanted to buy something, and I said, okay, I had the money in the account and I knew I would have to wait to transfer it, and by the time it got transferred, or by the time I waited or whatever, it's like I didn't even want the thing anymore. So it just forced me to give some thought to my buying. And also, so I'm not looking and seeing that I had this like big lump sum of money in my account, like what I was doing before, thinking I have all this money, and then I'm spending and spending and spending, and then a bill comes up or something that I forgot about, and now you're like, man, I could have used that money for that. So that is why I have 15 bank accounts. Tell me if you have a lot of bank accounts, and if you do, why, or if you're thinking about possibly having multiple bank accounts for different things. Since I started the 7 accounts, like I said, it has evolved to about 15. I've also have changed them too, because I have also started using an envelope system as well, and also doing a weekly budget, because at the time when I first set up these accounts, I did not have a budget whatsoever. But now, so I do a weekly budget and also use envelopes as well, and I probably will do a future video to talk about how I budget weekly and how I use the envelope system, which also helps me to stay on track. All right, if you have any questions about this video, please let me know in the comment section or send me an email and let me know if you use multiple bank accounts to help you with some of your financial goals. All right, that's all I have for now. Take care, everyone.